What's going on, guys? Ibrahim here again with a little bit of a different video. But today we're going to be talking about systems of productivity, how you can use systematic approaches to create the results that you want in the way of achieving your goals. So here we're going to start with discipline. And you're going to ask, why did I mention discipline first? Because I believe that discipline is the backbone of this concept, regardless if you have a goal or not. If you don't have discipline, you're not going to be able to get it accomplished. And so, to define discipline a little bit, is the ability to put consistent efforts towards a goal, regardless of the circumstances. So, and for a goal, you might be able to divide your goal into long-term and short-term goals. Long-term goals are going to be more lofty, ambitious, and living life in your ideal scenario. Short-term goals are going to be more realistic, attainable, and bound by time, which means you have pretty much a due date of when you plan to accomplish this goal by. And so, you're going to ask next, how do you make these things happen? And the answer to that is by getting the work done that is required by these goals. And so, how do you get the work done? You have to map out what it takes and what tasks you need to be able to accomplish these goals. And so, first, you're going to figure out what you need to do. Like, what are these tasks that you need to achieve? And you're going to ask yourself questions about these specific goals in order to get towards an answer for that. So, if your goal is to, for example, get stronger and lose weight, your question to yourself would be, how do I put on muscle and cut fat? And your research would be methods for body weight recomposition. And so you research your goal, you research what you need to do to get there, and you come up with the answer of weight training and eating in a caloric deficit. And so now you found your task and what is going to be on pretty much your to-do list for accomplishing a given goal. And so next, you have to worry about productivity. Because now that you've decided what you need to do, you need to know the best way to do it. Because work without substance or a plan is wasted time and energy. Because productivity is basically trying to get the most output for your work, trying to get the best results for as much work as you can do without having to exhaust yourself. I mean, if you're trying to train for a marathon, you're not going to run a marathon every single day and kind of hope it works out. You're going to come at it with a structured plan. You're going to run X amount of miles every day at X pace and really get gradual improvements over time. And so if you want to maximize your productivity, the best way to do it is through systems of productivity. A system of productivity is a methodology or framework that you apply to a task to maximize results over a given time period. And so that's basically saying that it's a way of thinking and it's a way of acting and organizing your actions and thoughts so that you can maximize your productivity. And so here's two systems that I use intertwined with one another at different times. They work for the way that I think. You can feel free to create your own, take things from mine, or do whatever you like with this information, because system and productivity are very subjective. Not everyone has the same way they think or they process information. And yeah, so feel free to use your own. The first one is going to be the nucleus or atom method. And so here I have a drawing of a little atom. And you want to think of your long-term goal as the bigger picture or as an object. And like you may have learned in biology or chemistry class or whatever, all objects are made out of atoms. And think of the atom as a short-term goal. And your short-term goals are orbited and surrounded by tasks, which are the little electrons that orbit an atom. So your short-term goals must be complementary to the tasks you take on. The same way the charge of an atom is bound. For a little bit of science lesson for you guys, the nucleus of an atom is positively charged and the electrons of an atom are negatively charged. And because of these opposite charges, they balance the atom so that crazy things like explosions, stuff like that, don't happen. So basically that's saying that the tasks that you do that are orbiting and surrounding your main short-term goal must be complementary and they must be aligned with the short-term goal that you're trying to achieve. If you want to lose weight, you're not going to start writing essays and practicing your vocabulary. Like, that just isn't two things that are aligned, and that isn't going to help you towards your goal. If you're going to lose weight, you're going to eat in a caloric deficit and you're going to train weights. So the second one is, I think this is a little bit better for abstract thinkers, is the chronological method. I think it's better for abstract thinkers just because people who are able to piece together information in a different way, people who are able to be a little bit more flexible with their thinking, may benefit better from a more timeline-based approach in Obviously, this is a timeline-based approach as well because you have to have a due date and you have to bind your goals by time. But this is also a timeline-based approach because this is literally putting things out on a timeline of when they should be accomplished by, and that's the only kind of parameter to the system. And so this method is best for abstract thinkers. Start at the end of your goal and work backwards. Figure out what steps your ideal self or you in the future who achieved that goal took to get there. Write them down in reverse order. For example, if your end goal is to get rich, you think, before I was rich, what did I do? How did I get rich? I worked in finance. How did I get the job in finance? I got a job in finance by doing well in college and getting an MBA. How did I get that? I worked hard in school and studied in my free time and sacrificed things to get my MBA. And so now you reverse these pieces and you turn that into the process of your task. So first you're going to study, which was originally the last step in your journey. First you're going to study. Then you're going to work hard, college and high school. You're going to get your MBA. Then you're going to apply, do your internships, do the due diligence to get a finance job. And this is obviously a little more generic because it's not something in depth, but you're going to get a finance job and you're going to be rich. And so this obviously isn't a perfect example. It's kind of just to show you guys the way the system works and the way it's able to kind of process actions and things based off time periods and based off certain steps that you need to do to get there. And like I said, I use both of these methods intertwiningly, like, because that's just the way I think. I'll think of a task, for example, I'll do the chronological method as my first kind of filter of how you're going to do it. I'll think of these few tasks, right? So say you study, get an MBA, get a finance job, to be rich. And then I'll kind of apply the atomic method and the nucleus method to these tasks. And so that's just how my brain works. You might have a different kind of method. If you have anything, you can put it down in the comments. You can DM me. We can definitely talk, or I would love to hear any better ways that you guys are trying to work through your day-to-day tasks. And so here's some tools that help, because there's obviously more to it. You're not just going to like store all this stuff in your brain. You're going to get fatigued. You're going to overload yourself, and you're just not going to be able to mentally keep up and keep being productive. And so the first few are going to be a journal or a notebook, an agenda with a physical planner, and a mini notepad. Because the journal and notebook is for like when you get home. What I like to do at the end of the day is journal today's wins, what I did today, how today went, pretty much. And then I'll flip the next page. On the back of that same page, I'll typically write tomorrow's kind of schedule, plan, anything I need to remember for tomorrow. Excuse me. And then an agenda is where you write date by date certain benchmarks, certain events and things like that, just like to get those things out of your mind so you have more space for more important stuff. And then mini notepads for on the go. Like if you have, for example, if you're driving and you remember something, you just pull over, or whenever you park, you just take out your mini notepad and write it down, and you can copy that into your larger journal at the end of the day, because sometimes you're not always able to pull out a full-size journal or notebook. And then to further emphasize that, you have the Google and Outlook calendar. I'm a huge fan of the Outlook calendar, so because it's just in the same app as your email if you use Outlook emails. And then Google Calendar is also pretty much the same thing. It's also just convenient, just not what I use. Very good for planning everything out. And then your iPhone Notes app and MacBook Stickies. iPhone Notes app is pretty much, everyone uses that. You guys know what it is. And then MacBook Stickies, I'm a huge fan of that as well, because it just sticks to your desktop. Whenever you're browsing your computer or anything like that, you can just go to your desktop. Remember, oh, my stickies right here. You read everything on your sticky, and you're able to remind you of those things. But in the end of the day, I think that writing is always greater than typing in terms of being able to remember information. Because I don't know, maybe teachers kind of just tell you this so that you're able to take, so that they convince you to take notes in class. But they always say that your brain processes stuff a little bit better when you write it down instead of when you type it out. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But I think from my experience, that writing things down has just, I think the tactile nature of writing something down is able to really help you synthesize that information. And then on top of that, when you write something down on a piece of paper, like, you put the effort into writing it, you're going to want to remember that piece of paper. And you're going to remember where you put it. If it's in a journal or if it's on just a sheet like this, you're going to remember where you put it, and you're going to be able to refer back to it at any time. You're not going to accidentally delete an entire piece of paper. And if you throw it away, it's going to be like a conscious action of blowing it up and tossing it out. But that is Systems of Productivity, guys. I thank you all for watching. Let's talk in the comments. Let's hear what you guys have to think. Keep climbing your mountain. Raheem out.